it is interesting hearing it called the blood moon, right? It sounds spooky. It'd be nicely timed with Halloween. And it may look to you kind of weird to see the full moon basically turn, I would call it maybe more of a dark orange than really truly red. But it fits the name blood moon. It looks kind of spooky, but it's a slow process. Like it starts to get a little bit dark, then it starts to get a little bit darker and darker, and then it turns red at the very end. And it takes hours for the whole thing to happen. Christopher Palma, teaching professor in the Department of Astronomy and Astrophysics. If you want to see the blood moon coming up, you have to either stay up really late or get up really early, because the whole process starts around 3:30 in the morning, the night after March 2nd, going into the morning of March 3rd, and it really becomes the true blood moon where it's fully eclipsed around 6 a.m. March 3rd. If you've seen a solar eclipse, or even just seen video or pictures, you know that in a solar eclipse, the sun gets blocked out and you can't see the sun at all. In the case of a lunar eclipse, the moon is moving into Earth's shadow. And so it's a little bit odd in that it does start to get dark, but at the moment when it's fully in the shadow and it should be completely dark, you get sunlight passing through the edges of Earth's atmosphere and hitting the moon. And the reason it's called the blood moon is if you think about how red the sky gets at sunset, it's the same thing happening. The light that's hitting Earth is going through a lot of Earth's atmosphere. A lot of the blue light is getting scattered out of the way, and it's only the red light that lands on the moon. And it really can look like a dark red color. And so it's a pretty fascinating view if you've never seen it before. This is a great time to get out and look at the stars. You do have to go in between snowstorms, but winter is a really good time for observing the stars, partly because on those cold nights, it can be crystal clear. And the other reason wintertime is a good time to look at the stars, one of the most easy to recognize constellations and some really, really bright stars are visible at this time of year. So if you're out right after dark, anytime in the next even months, look up and look for Orion's belt, 3 stars in a row that form a really nice straight line. And then once you find Orion's belt, above the belt is Betelgeuse, and below the belt is a star called Rigel. And you'll know you're looking at the right ones because Betelgeuse is an orangey red, and Rigel will look kind of a bluish white. Betelgeuse is a fascinating star. I love telling people about it in the planetarium or anytime astronomy comes up. It is an absolute supergiant star. 400 million of our sun could fit inside of this one star. The reason I like to talk about it in February or March, if you go outside and see it, we're used to thinking of the stars as not changing. They're just as bright. They come back to the same spots. People wrote about the same stars we see today 100 years ago, 1,000 years ago. But a few years ago, Betelgeuse just all of a sudden got darker. It not so dark you couldn't see it anymore, but it faded out from being one of the brightest stars in the winter sky to being more average. And now just a couple years later, it is back to being one of the brightest stars in the sky. And so anytime that happens, we want to know why, right? Why would a star just all of a sudden dim like that? You may have heard of a nova, the explosion on a star's surface, a supernova, a star completely exploding. The technical term for what Betelgeuse did was it burped. It expelled gas, and the gas it expelled all sort of formed around the star and basically blocked some of its light, making it look dimmer. But the thing that's so cool is because of that dimming, it made people pay attention to this well-known star that's been studied and observed for a long time. We paid attention to it more closely than we have in a really long time. And what people have found just in the last year is that Betelgeuse actually seems to have another companion star. So here's this giant star, and here's another one that's orbiting it. Roughly, it seems like every 6 years. And what's really cool is just recently with the Hubble Space Telescope, people have observed this star is actually kind of inside of the outer parts of the atmosphere. So just like a boat moving around in a lake, it's leaving a wake. It's basically stirring Betelgeuse's atmosphere up as it orbits. And so just go outside, look up, and you see this orange star, and just know that every so often it's going to burp. And now we know that not only is it this bright supergiant star, but it actually has a companion star that is right now orbiting around inside of its atmosphere.